Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Advocates for Angels Monday morning Facebook Live. I'm Valerie Abrahamian, the IEP Navigator, and I help parents get the IEP their child needs to thrive both in school and in life after high school. And this morning's Facebook Live is entitled, Stop Being a Victim of Your Local School District. Learn how to stand in your power and authority under IDEA as a sovereign parent advocate. And again, IDEA stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is the federal law for special education. So I want to make a special announcement before we get started. I usually do every Wednesday night a town hall meeting. Ever since schools closed, I started doing every Wednesday night at 5 o'clock a town hall meeting where parents could come and get the latest updates on virtual schooling. So I'm discontinuing the town hall meeting. This Wednesday night is going to be the last town hall meeting. So please come to that because it's going to be the last one. And you have an opportunity to speak with me, ask me questions, any questions you have. And I'm going to be kind of talking about how I'm going to be transitioning over to what I'm replacing the town hall meeting with is a once a month advocacy roundtable webinar. And I did an advocacy roundtable already. I had Mark Levine, who is a special education judge. He was on the first advocacy roundtable along with 3 other amazing advocates, and it was a great webinar. Everybody really loved it. So my next advocacy roundtable is coming up on November 17th at 5 o'clock Pacific time. That is going to be with Rich Isaacs, who is a special education attorney, and it's going to be a great roundtable as well. So I'm replacing the Wednesday night town hall meetings with the once a month advocacy roundtable webinars. Okay, so that's my first announcement. So let's talk about today how you can step into your power and authority to become a sovereign parent advocate, which that means is you know your parent rights. You know how to implement your state education code to protect and defend the rights of your child and actually get the IEP that your child needs and actually see your local school district implement what it says on your IEP. That's being a powerful sovereign parent advocate. So there's many things that parents need to learn in order for them to get to that place, which is what I do. I teach and coach parents that information so you can protect the rights of your child, so your child can receive an education, so your child can graduate with a high school diploma, go on after high school to possibly gainful employment, possibly extended secondary education, and live a productive and happy and great life. That's what we all want for our kids, right? We want them to be independent after high school because I've seen what happens, parents. I've seen the group homes. That because when parents get too old to take care of their adult disabled child, they put these adult kids in group homes and then they get abused. And we don't want that for any of our kids. But we are working with a broken educational system that doesn't meet the needs of children, that doesn't teach education to kids, that segregates and that violates parent rights at every IEP meeting. So here's some great steps for you to start with in learning your parent rights. If you're having an IEP coming up, here are some good things to start with. So what do your IEP meetings look like when you go to an IEP meeting? Do you just go to your IEP meeting and you attend and you let your IEP team talk at you and tell you what they're going to do and tell you the decisions they've already made for your child while you listen, and then they put the IEP in front of you, and then you sign your IEP, and then you leave, and that's your annual IEP that might be about a half hour long, if that, and then you don't see your IEP team for another year at your next annual IEP, and you go again and you repeat, rinse and repeat once again. Most parents, that is what they do. Now, you might say something about something that you want or something that you're concerned about, And they might say, oh, okay, yes, yes, and they might talk about it or make a response to you, but they don't write it in the IEP. You don't see any changes, nothing ever happens. So that's what I do in teaching parents the things that you need to do, how you can have your local school district and your IEP team listen to you, address your concerns, win the services you need for your child, and see your child actually start to progress and start to learn. And that's where we want to go. But parents don't know how to hold their school district and IEP team accountable to actually see those things happen. So here's how to prepare for an IEP meeting. You want to, excuse me, you want to, first of all, request that all your IEP team participants are at the meeting, are going to be attending the meeting. Now, how do you do that? Prior to your IEP meeting, you're going to write an email, and you're going to say in that email 3 things. The first thing you're going to say is you plan to tape record your IEP meeting. The second thing you say is you're requesting that all IEP team participants are present for the entire meeting. Number 3, you're going to ask for a 2-hour time frame for your meeting. Now, why are you going to do that? Because you have the right, parents, to have every single one of your IEP team members present at your IEP meeting for the entire 2-hour meeting. There are legal mandates that require certain IEP team members there, and they have to be there. Now, the only reason that they would be excused from attending your IEP meeting is if they asked you, Mrs. Smith, are you okay with your speech and language pathologist not attending the meeting because they have a conflict and they can't attend? And you would have to say, yes, I give permission for my speech and language pathologist to not be at my IEP meeting. If they don't ask you prior to your meeting and then offer you what's called an IEP participant excusal form for you to sign and return back to them, they have violated one of your parent rights. For you to walk into an IEP meeting and you look around and your speech and language pathologist is not there, and you ask, where's my speech and language pathologist? And they say, oh, we're so sorry, Mrs. Smith, but they had a conflict and they couldn't be here today. Would you please sign this excusal form now and stick it in front of you and have you sign it? No, that's a violation of your rights, because you have the right to have that information prior to your meeting, because then if you know prior, then you can say, well, I'm not really okay with that because I need my speech path there because we need to talk and collaborate as a team and I have concerns I want to discuss with her or him. So I would like to reschedule my meeting to a time when my speech path can be there and when all my IEP team participants can be in attendance at the meeting. That is how you implement your parent rights for parent participation. So the other thing is, why would you ask for a 2-hour time frame? Because you have the right to ask for a 2-hour time frame. The district should not be rushing you through your IEP meeting and squeezing meetings into a half-hour long, 45 minutes long, 1 hour long. That's not okay, because you can't go through an annual IEP in an equitable and complete way where everyone is able to discuss each one of the goals. Just each service provider can discuss their services and their goals and talk about all the accommodations and talk about last year's goals and if your child met last year's goals, and then talk about all of your concerns and your requests in 45 minutes to 1 hour. It's simply impossible. So you have the right to ask for 2 hours, and they must give you an approved 2 hours, because then you're going to avoid having to reconvene and come back to another meeting in order to complete the IEP agenda. Now, the other thing is that you don't want to, if you tell them, if they say, well, we can't, we don't have time and we're going to end the meeting now, then parents, you need to say, okay, I understand we ran out of time, But I would like to schedule now a continuation meeting. And when can we do that? Within the next 2 weeks. When you start letting them know that you're not going to just sign the IEP just because you ran out of time, they want you to sign. That's their whole goal, is to sign. And so that they're off the hook, they had their meeting and parents signed an agreement. No, you have the right to have all of your concerns heard, for you to hear and have good discussion on every issue in your IEP, whether it's an annual, whether it's a triennial, or whether it's an amendment meeting. You have the right to have it completed. And so don't let them try to cut you short, try to get you to sign before it is completed. So you have the right to a 2-hour time frame. And the other thing that I talked about is make sure that all of your participants are there and that you're tape recording the meeting. Now, why do you want to tape record the meeting? Because parents, when you tape record your IEP meeting, they are more apt to be honest. It keeps them honest. Because when they're not being tape recorded, many times they will say misinformation, disinformation, or mislead and misguide you because they're not being tape recorded. When they're tape recorded, they're going to adhere much closer to parent rights and to state special education law than when they're not tape recorded. You have every right to keep tape record. It doesn't send a message that you're being adversarial or that you're planning on going to a hearing. All that is rhetoric and ways to mix you up and confuse you and intimidate you into not tape recording your meeting. I tape record every single meeting that I have when I help other parents in IEP meetings. I used to tape record every meeting I had for my daughter. You have the right to tape record. It doesn't mean anything, but you are implementing your right to tape record, which is your parent right. So always tape record. Also, what it does for you parents is it gives you an opportunity to learn. You can go back and listen to the tape recording, and it's a piece of training for you to be able to learn some of these concepts, some of these IEP language and different acronyms they use. Because you can't remember everything that happened in your IEP meeting. It's impossible. So it's an amazing teaching tool that you have when you tape record your IEP as well. And it's also evidence of what was said, because many times they'll say, no, the speech pathologist didn't say that. And you can say, oh, yes, I'm sure they did. It's on the tape recording. And so, like I said, it keeps people honest, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next bullet point that I have here, which is make sure you receive a draft, an IEP draft, prior to your meeting. So parents, you have the right to get a draft of your IEP prior to the meeting. Now, why? Why do you want to do that? Because the draft is going to show you if your child has met or made progress towards or not met last year's goals, okay, and you want to know that. Because if your child hasn't met last year's goals, then that's a problem. They should have met last year's goals. There was a whole year that they had to meet last year's goals. Now, in this situation we're in right now with virtual schooling and schools having been closed from March to the end of last school year to June, a lot of goals haven't been met, and so that's a different situation. I'm talking about in our typical situations. Most goals should be met within 1 year. And if they aren't, there should be a reason why. There needs to be a discussion about that. Well, why? Was the goal too lofty? Where did my child get stuck? Where are they right now in terms of this goal? What is their baseline now? And how are they going to rewrite that goal for the upcoming school year? So that's a discussion that needs to be had about last year's goals, and it's very important. And the other thing that you're going to be doing and looking at that draft is you're going to be looking at this year's new goals. So then you can check and see, okay, last year that goal wasn't met, so did they rewrite the goal and offer it for this school year? Because they better have. Just because a child doesn't meet a goal doesn't mean it just goes away and then they write another one in a whole different area. No, that goal has to be continued and revised so the child can meet the goal this year. So you're checking that, you're involved, you're knowing what your child's goals are, and you're making sure that the goals have been written in all areas of your child's suspected disability. In every area where there is a deficit, there should be a goal written, or there should be some kind of intervention happening in that area of deficit for your child. And there's many, I'm not going to go into what goals should look like because that's a whole other topic, but there's a specific way to ensure that those goals are written appropriately and that they are specific and measurable. So that's why you want to get your IEP draft, parents. Many times they also include your accommodations for the school year. Your accommodations should be the same accommodations as you had the previous school year. Accommodations are extremely important. You also are going to get the accommodations that you can look at in your draft. Now, they're not going to add the services in there because they're only going to offer the services at the end of the meeting, so you won't get the draft of the services, but you're going to get the draft of 3/4 of the IEP, and except for the services. Then you can be prepared to go in, have your questions written down that you want to ask for prior to the meeting, and it also gives you an opportunity to develop your parent agenda, which is my next bullet point. Write a parent agenda. So when you go to an IEP meeting, the district hands you their district IEP agenda for your child, which is basically the schedule and the order in which the IEP will be conducted in. And it's always a specific order every single time. That order is the same order as your document. It's the same order as the IEP document. It's the same order as the IEP process in developing a child's appropriate special education program. So that order is very important. I'm not going to talk about the order this morning because that's another whole Facebook Live talking about the order of the IEP process, which is also the document, which is also the order that an IEP meeting is conducted in. So you're going to write your parent agenda. What's in your parent agenda? Any concerns that you have, any requests that you're going to make, things that you want changed, things that you want added, services you want increased, assessments that you want done, whatever requests you have and whatever concerns you have. You're going to write it in a 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm requesting these things. I have these concerns. And you can also write your parent statement, your parents' concerns and priorities statement. At every IEP meeting, they always ask you, parents, what are your main concerns and priorities for this school year for your child? And then you'll start verbally saying this and that, and you're thinking off the top of your head, and you didn't prepare for it, so you're not really saying much. And then at the end of the meeting, you go home and you say, oh, I should have said this. Oh, I should have told them that, because you didn't prepare. And so this is your golden opportunity to actually write out your parent concerns and priorities statement. And then you can actually read it at the IEP meeting because you're already prepared. That statement is very powerful because it goes typed in right into the IEP document. If you look on your IEP, there's a section at the very beginning that says, this is the parents' concerns and priorities for their child for this school year. And they type it in right there into the IEP. So you have an opportunity to make sure that is accurate, and it's also further evidence for what you're unhappy about, what you're concerned about, and what you're requesting. So you prepare your parent agenda. My next bullet point is elicit a decision. Okay, when you go to your IEP meeting, make sure that you are prepared to discuss your concerns and your priorities. So be sure that you're ready. How are you going to verbalize that? How are you going to ask for that? Prepare and practice prior to when you go. These are some of the skills and the steps you can start using to learn how to be an active IEP team participant and not just sit there quietly and let them take over and let them tell you and talk out to you, because you that will then start learning how to become a collaborative and informed parent advocate at your IEP meetings. I want to hop back up to when we were talking about the participants. So you should be receiving a notice of meeting, an NOM, which stands for Notice of Meeting. Before your every IEP meeting, this is a legal document that is your also a parent right that they are mandated to provide you, the notice of meeting. It's basically an IEP invitation, and on that invitation, it will list all your IEP team members on there. So you want to make sure you read that notice of meeting and you say, hey, where's my occupational therapist? They're not on there. Did they forget? And then you can contact your case carrier and say, hey, I see that my occupational therapist isn't on there. Why not? And she's going to say, oh my gosh, I forgot. Or she's going to say, oh, I'm sorry, they can't come. And then you're going to go back to previously what I talked about prior regarding the IEP participants. But that notice of meeting is extremely important. If they don't give it to you, that's a violation of your parent rights. And it also gives you the opportunity to ensure that all participants are there. Once you sign that notice of meeting that says all those IEP participants are coming, if you walk into the meeting and a participant that was on your notice of meeting isn't there, again, violation. They committed to being there because their name is on the notice of meeting. So again, these are some of the ways you can hold your IEP team accountable and start learning how to implement and utilize your parent rights. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about is do not sign your IEP at the meeting, parents. Don't ever sign your IEP at the meeting. You don't have to sign your IEP at the meeting. Don't let them intimidate you, coerce you, mislead you, give you misinformation that you have to sign your IEP at the meeting. Now, of course, a lot of people are having virtual IEP meetings, so you can't sign at the meeting now. But you don't have to sign your IEP. You don't have to. If you don't sign your IEP, the last IEP that was in place remains in place. You're not going to lose anything. Your child isn't going to get kicked out of special education. They're not going to file a hearing on you if you don't sign your IEP, okay? You have the right to, after the meeting is over, to read it over, take it home, and read it over in the comfort of your own home where you're not stressed, where you're not under pressure to sign. Typically at an IEP meeting when we're live and we're not, locked in our homes, but if you're live in an IEP meeting and they come over and they go, okay, Mrs. Smith, here you're going to sign it right here on this line here. And then you're under stress, you feel like you're obligated to sign, you have to sign, they're making you sign, and you take the pen and you sign. That is a violation of your rights. You do not have to sign. You have the right to go home, review that document, make sure you understand what it says, and if you don't agree with it, parents, then you don't sign it. So what you do is you would consider signing on 1B. So 1A says, I agree with everything in my IEP and I'm happy as a clam. I'm so happy with my child's special education program and I have no concerns. I'm so happy. So I'm going to sign on 1A. 1B says, I agree with my IEP except for, and then there's a little tiny line about this long that they say that they give you to write your except for on. So of course it's not possible for you to write anything on that except for line. So you're going to say, except for, please see my partial agreement attached. And then you're going to write an additional document that says, I agree with to implement my child's IEP except for these issues in which I am in dissent. And then you're going to list out all the issues that you disagree with, that they didn't address at your meeting, that they said no to, or whatever your requests or concerns are that were not resolved at your IEP meeting. Those are the things you're going to list out. So those are the options you have to sign your IEP. Now, I teach all those things in my 7 steps for success and how to become a powerful parent advocate in the monthly Parent Brigade membership. Of course, I can only touch on those things in a Facebook Live, but these are some of the things that I go through in depth in the Parent Brigade. That is a monthly parent membership where I meet with parents twice a month on a live group call. I also have curriculum that I give them with the scripts and the templates that give you, like the template for your partial agreement that I just talked about, how to write a partial agreement correctly with all the words and the language that's going to help you to be able to start implementing your parent rights. Templates on how to write a good parent agenda. Templates on how to write a letter in response to your IEP meeting if you don't want to sign it at all because it didn't go well at all and you're not happy and you're in complete disagreement with the whole IEP meeting. So then you would take a different approach. You would write a letter outlining that what you're concerned about and you want to request another IEP meeting. So whatever it may be, I have all the templates in there to help parents to learn how to write the parent agenda, how to learn how to write a partial agreement, how to understand what a prior written notice is when the district sends you a PWN or a prior written notice, how to write those parent letters that I just talked about in response to your IEPs, how to hold an informal dispute resolution meeting when you can't come to an agreement with your IEP team and they won't award you what you're asking for your child. And then sometimes after an informal dispute resolution meeting, you might be faced with dealing with a settlement agreement, which is another step in becoming a powerful parent advocate. So we talk about settlement agreements. And then I teach parents how to write a compliance complaint to the State Department of Education or the Office of Civil Rights. So those are the 7 steps we go through in the Parent Brigade. So parents, if you're interested in that, please go to my Advocates for Angels Facebook page. You'll see the how to register for the Parent Brigade there. And I hope to see you there because, I went through this as well. I don't know, many of you follow me and know my story, but my daughter Chanel, she was diagnosed with autism and seizure disorder when she was 3 years old. And the team of neurologists at UCLA told me that she would never talk, she would never read, she would never write, and she would never be successful in school. And the school district wanted to place her in the severely handicapped class, the autism classroom, and told me she would never get her diploma. And it was just basically a babysitting class. They don't teach the kids anything in a severely handicapped class. It's not curriculum. They don't teach math, reading, writing. They just babysit them. And I said, no, that's not happening to my child. And I learned how to become a parent advocate. So I'm where you are. I totally understand, whatever step you're in as a parent advocate in learning this whole navigating of special education, IEP stuff, I've been there with you and I understand what you're going through. So, and it is possible to win. My daughter was never placed in a severely handicapped class. She was most of her school career in general ed included alongside her typical developing peers. And she did graduate with her high school diploma. In fact, she graduated with honors. And she went on afterwards to secondary education. She got her certificate, California credentialed certificate in dog grooming. She's a full-fledged dog groomer, and she also rescues animals. And I've seen many other of my clients over the years have the same situation. I had Mike, his mom hired me when he was very young, and I went through the process with her. Mike graduated with a diploma, and when they told him he would never be able to graduate with a diploma, he also on the autism spectrum, he absolutely graduated with a diploma, and he went on to work in his dad's business, and he's also living independently today. Well, he has help, but he's living outside the home with supported living services from the regional center. Also, Emiliano, another story of a kiddo on the spectrum. Again, they wanted to place Emiliano in a severely handicapped class. His parents hired me. He wasn't placed in a severely handicapped class, and Emiliano did amazing in high school. He got A's and B's. He graduated with his degree last June, just this last June, and I got to see him graduate, and it's such an amazing success story to be able to see these kiddos get their diploma, get their education, get the skills they need to go on to a happy and productive life after high school. If you listen to the district and you allow them to violate your parent rights, this affects our kids' entire life. Entire life. They are changing your child's entire future. They are putting a roadblock in front of your child's potential to reach their potential in life. And that's not okay. It's not okay, parents. I could go on. I have Matthew, I have Alex, I have Dylan. More stories of the same situations. All these kids on the spectrum of autism, they told them they would never be able to get an education, never be able to learn, wanted to place them in severely handicapped classes, and they all got their diplomas, and they all did amazing because they got what they needed. They got the IEP and the support services and placement they needed to be successful. And we could go on and on with lots of stories I have like that over the past 23 years of advocating for parents. But parents, you can do it too. And I encourage you and I support you on your journey to become a powerful parent advocate and go from victim of the local school district to victor in taking the driver's seat of the destiny for your child and having a success story, your own success story. So please like and share this video, parents. And again, I want to remind you, you can go to my YouTube channel because all my videos are on my Advocates for Angels YouTube channel if you want to check out more videos from me. But please do like and share this video so we can reach as many other moms as we possibly can. And thanks, guys, and I will see you next Monday for my next Facebook Live. Take care, everybody.